expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Mercer University or WMUB. Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of the Middle Georgia Spotlight. I'm your host, Jack Ellis. Thanks so much for joining us. The program is made possible by Caduceus Medicine and J. Franklin Automotives. In the spotlight this week, James Beverly, Representative James Beverly, Dr. Beverly, Representative James Beverly represents District 143 in Bibb County. I think a little bit of Twiggs as well. Welcome to our program.
Thank you.
Welcome back. You've been here before, and I really appreciate it. Wanted to have you back, talk about several things. So much is happening. You just got out of your session. Obviously, you want to talk about that. What were the main topics? You had to go back for 11 days, I guess.
11 days, yeah.
What was, other than the budget, what were the big items left undone that you had to get taken care of?
Well, number one, we had to get hate crimes on the book. House Bill 426 sat in the Senate for, I think it was 470 days. And finally, it was a trip, man, because, you know, it sat there. They tried to, you know, the bill wasn't very strong. We need to get some data input on it. We had to make sure that we captured all the people who were dealing with hate crimes across the board. And the governor, not the governor, the lieutenant governor is trying to use that to then say we're going to put heritage groups in and so forth. And so that fight went on for about 6 or 7 days, and it was intense. And it almost got to a point that they were going to kill it. And finally, sort of last-ditch effort, I think they realized that the politics was not in their favor, and so they added the reporting requirement, and we got it through. So that took up a lot of time, a lot of energy to move all those moving parts to get that done. So that was great. But on the heels of that, they did Senate Bill 838, which gave police protection, and so we have all these protections for law enforcement already. But on the same day that we sort of get hate crimes out, they passed 838. And everything that the governor wanted to do in that bill, as far as protecting the police, those kind of things, it was almost like a slap in the face because those protections were already there. And so, you know, it is what it is. We're looking forward to this upcoming election, man, in November. We got to get people out and got to vote because we got to get this guy and a lot of people who support him out of office. He's got to go.
Yeah, but before we do that, you also had to deal. Do you think the hate crime bill moved because of what happened in Brunswick or what happened in Minneapolis, and it was caught up in the entire criminal justice reform,
Yes.
in your opinion?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what happened with Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and on absolutely has something to do with it. And it was a point where, you know, the hate crimes bill would not have prevented what happened to Ahmaud Arbery. But we came up with a legislative package called Justice for All, where no-knock warrants need to go away. Citizens' arrest needs to go away. Those kind of things. Well, 12 different bills that we were pushing, that we either started before Ahmaud Arbery and never got a hearing, or we pushed it after Ahmaud Arbery. And so those bills are out there. Even though we ended session, we know that next year as we come back, we want to push those things, because some of those bills would have actually prevented him from being murdered. And so we wanted to make sure we took a hard look at that. And so we pushed those out, didn't get any traction, but next year we will come right back at it and get on it again.
Now, criminal justice reform, we've heard a lot of it at the local level, talking about defunding. I think that's a misnomer. A lot of people really talking about redirecting. But the state level, you all fund the state police, you fund the GBI, you fund the prison system, which is all tight. Did you have any movement whatsoever in redirecting any of those funds away from criminal justice into mental health or things of that nature?
No, absolutely not.
No.
And it's a disgrace. And not just a disgrace not to move the money, but what was a real disgrace is that they cut, the governor and lieutenant governor in the House, Speaker of the House, decided to make cuts across the board. 11% in some places, 3% here, 10% here, and they cut everything. And so they cut in programs with people. We're already in the midst of a pandemic. People need services to keep them going. You need to have the Department of Labor leveled up a certain way. People are unemployed, people are hurting, you need health care. And they're cutting stuff. But what they left open were corporate loopholes. You know, you trade in a car, there's $120 million of tax credits that goes to used car dealers every year. $120 million.
Wow.
$190 million goes to some life insurance companies that's been going on for, 50 years. And we found all these corporate loopholes that were being funded to a tune of about $500 million. And we said, listen, why don't you start there first? Let's shut those loopholes down. You generate $500 million, you ain't gonna cut none of these programs. Didn't go for it. We said we should raise the tobacco tax by $1, generate about $400 million. Didn't go for it. And those are the sensible things that we were trying to say. We can do this now. Look at where we are a year from now after this COVID thing. Hopefully we get a vaccine or a drug that can treat you in short order. But the reality is they didn't take any of those issues. So we voted against the budget. Because in this time of crisis, you should not be cutting right now. You should be looking for additional revenue sources. And then if you have to cut, you can, but they didn't do that. And so one of the things when you say about criminal justice reform, you have that being cut as well. Judges are being, prosecuting attorneys are being laid off. That's a problem because the courts are now going to open back up now. You're going to have a lot of stuff going on, and yet we did not look at those expenditures as a way, revenue coming in to take care of those expenditures. I think it was a blown mistake and a big problem for Georgia.
Yeah, we know that we have a very large prison population, not just Georgia, throughout the country, we have a very large prison population. Some states have been letting people go home and serve their sentence at home if they were susceptible to this or if they were near their end of their sentence. What did we do? Did we do anything of that nature in Georgia?
No, because again, I mean, it's, we have in the state of Georgia, as you know, Jack, and I think many of your viewers, very educated viewers, understand that in the House there are 180 members. And out of the 180 members, there are 105 Republican members, and there are 75 Democratic members. In order to get anything passed, whether you want to get a committee hearing or anything like what we're talking about done, you have to have 91 votes, majority plus one. Since we have 75 members, you can't get to that 91 threshold unless 16 people would defect and come over and vote with us. And the issues of criminal justice, reform, healthcare, every time we put those kinds of questions up, we either don't get a hearing or when it's heard, it's voted down right across party lines. And so what you learn is you got to try to tack it on to another bill and so forth. You figure that out. I mean, I've been up there almost 10 years now, and you kind of figure out how to maneuver the system to get your bill on. But once people realize that you put this in bills, they strip it out and move another bill along. And that's the part of the politics that, you sort of get used to, but you don't because that's why you got to fight to get to 91. But those kind of issues, yes, we brought those up in our criminal justice for all package. Didn't get a chance to even hear a hearing or to have it put on another bill to float. So none of those things happen. Unfortunately, we have to go back next year and try again.
Yeah, I know you don't focus on yourself that much. You focus on your work and what you're doing for the community as well as statewide, but you have been elevated to, from what I understand, a leadership position within the Democratic caucus.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'm the chair of the Georgia House Democratic Caucus, and in that position then I do a lot of negotiating behind the scenes to make sure that democratic values are being pushed. So like the budget, for instance, I came up with another budget, an alternative budget that we pushed. Some of the issues that we pushed, the House Speaker didn't take them up, but the guy of appropriations said, Doc Beverly, we want to look at this stuff in the off season. So I'm involved in sort of the behind the scenes stuff to try to get democratic values pushed, but I take care of like when people come to the Capitol and they want to visit our caucus, I do that. So I basically manage all the internal work of the House caucus. And that comes with a lot of responsibility. My hair is graying up every day.
Well, congratulations. Like you said, less than 10 years, and you've already, either that speaks volumes or we don't have anyone with a lot of seniority. It speaks volumes of your leadership ability that they have recognized it and elevated you as such. But let's get back to this COVID thing for a minute, if you will. How has that, we hear a lot about it. The governor, we shut down, then they said the cases were down, they're going up again. Where are we with this statewide? What's the Democrat position? You say you're in leadership. What's yours position? I notice you're wearing a mask, so obviously you are demonstrating what your position is. But the governor said, we're not going to make it mandatory. What's your position, or the Democratic leadership position?
Yeah, every day at 5 o'clock on the Georgia House Democratic Caucus website on Facebook, I have 15 minutes where I tell you the new cases of COVID that come out, what you can do to protect yourself, stuff that's going on with Department of Labor. So any issues that happen from 5 to 5:15 every day. I've been doing that for the last 3 weeks. But before that, we were having a press conference from the time COVID started every Thursday at 1 o'clock. And so here's our position. Number one is we never got out of the first wave. It never ended. It kept going like this. And then once he opened up the state, so he said we were the first state to close, last state to close down. Remember this, last state to close down, the first one to open up. And so now what we're seeing is we're going 500, 600 new cases from 3 o'clock to 3 o'clock every day. It went to 1,100, went to 800, and it started doing this. Memorial Day comes along, and he releases the whole state. Go do whatever you're going to do, no real guidance. Last week, we averaged 2,000 new cases a day in Georgia. 2,000. The record was on Sunday, was 2,225 cases. Yesterday, from Sunday to Monday, 1,800 new cases. Now, we start thinking about 3% of the people going to perish. You have people dying right now. The death rates are starting to climb now. So we're averaging 35 Georgians a day right now are dying of COVID-19, are dying. And so our position has always been the same, is we never left the first wave. We're still in the midst of a wave that's starting to spike. The second wave will never come because we'll stay in this first wave as long as people are not wearing a mask, not washing their hands, and sheltering in place. And I think it was a blown opportunity by a governor who really, I understand the economics. I'm a small businessman. You know, I got a couple businesses in town. They're shut down because I'm more concerned about the safety of my employees and the people who would come to me than making $1 or $2. And we'll get back to business in a year. But there's no sensible way to have folk going out without mandating masks. He should do that right now. He should mandate that across the board. You should have a mask on. And there should be some type of...
I have mine, but you're wearing one.
Yeah, so you're fine, right? But you got to mandate that. Because if we don't do that, then you're going to have those people going to be the outliers that infect folk, and then that's not fair for the rest of us. So I would just say to your viewers and everybody around, listen, if you're going to be out, put a mask on. Like, if you're not going to protect yourself, protect me. And that's what we need to do. We need to protect each other. But he can say that with a clarion call. He doesn't. The second thing is you can absolutely find money to take care of Department of Labor issues that we're going to have. When the courts start opening up, people are going to be evicted from their homes because, right, they haven't been working money. So that's going to be a problem. You got people with their gas and electric not going to be able to pay. That's going to be a problem. And then there's not going to be any benefits with the Department of Labor. He needs to step back. The governor needs to step back and say, where can we find revenue to cover the GDP for the state of Georgia for 6 months? And if he does that, you can throttle back people going back to shelter in place unless you have to go to work. And that should be an exception, not the rule. Having to go to work should be the exception, not the rule. And I think we're blowing an opportunity. And time will tell. When these deaths start to pile up and these hospital beds get jammed up, then I think we're going to start looking at those measures when we can do it now before this thing really goes to the stratosphere. But 2,200 people a day, Jack, I mean, that's 100 people an hour. 100 people an hour getting COVID right now. And these are the ones that are tested. An hour, 100 people an hour. Means, you know, one person every minute is getting COVID.
Now, you are a father, you have children in college, and the debate is going on now as to what should happen with the education system, and not only at university level, but at the primary and secondary level. Should our children be going back to school? Did you all deal with that at all, or is that strictly up to the Department of Education? Do you all have any say, any weigh in on that?
Yeah, again, it's the numbers game. So we certainly weighed in on that. We don't think anybody should go back to school, not this semester. That, like my kids, I was telling you before, my son is in his third year at Temple. We're saying if Temple doesn't have a Zoom type of opportunity, you're not going back because we're not sure where this pandemic is going. We've never been in anything like this. What we do know that works, staying at home. We know shelter in place works. We know that wearing a mask works. And we know that keeping your hands clean works. But when you put people in an environment and you're sitting in that environment for more than 45 minutes, a stagnated environment for more than 45 minutes, you're more susceptible to getting COVID than not. So you got to do all this, but you can't be in a static environment without cleaning, disinfecting, and and cleaning that place up. So unless schools are saying to children, giving them the necessary computers to be on classes, creating hot spots, nodal points in poor areas where people can actually
get on the internet.
Taking advantage of 5G in rural areas so that people can get on the internet, and having kids shelter in place, it's extremely important to do that. And any school that doesn't do that, I think, is making a big mistake. I think Mercer has some stuff they're doing. I talked to somebody at Mercer the other day, and I think they're going to be doing some smart things with kids here on campus who have to come back. So I'm looking forward to what Mercer's going to do and being a leader in that space and not a follower. But we got to keep our kids safe, man. The kids are our future. We have to keep them safe by sheltering in place. Yeah. And if we don't do that, I think we're making a huge mistake. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Mercer. We are endeavoring, we've had the president on a couple of times. Of course, this is his joint that we operate here.
Yep.
But we're going to have him on, hopefully. We're working on the next show that he can tell us exactly what's going on with the university for the fall semester and so forth. But so, as you said, you're a businessman, you're a medical professional. So you were saying that the short-term gain for the economics just not worth the health of it.
Not.
So, and you're in a very good position, like I said, being a politician, being a medical profession, and being a business person. So you look at it from all angles. So you, have given this a lot of thought, obviously. Now, but let's get back to the the money of it. Let's say that, like you said, money is not everything. But in order to keep the state running, to keep cities running, you're losing a lot of money when businesses are closing because of taxes. What is the federal government doing? What have they done thus far? And what will they do to pump some money into? We know what they did for individuals. What about states and municipalities? What are they doing?
So the federal government, all right, so there's a couple of things. The federal government did do the CARES Act, which they dumped, several trillions of dollars out, $3 trillion, I think it was, that they put out. And that was part of that CARES Act funding went to dealing with the expenses that the state had as a result of COVID. And so that covered a chunk of issues. But what was not happening is they would not allow that money to be used in the state to cover budget shortfalls as a result of COVID. So there's a little wrinkle. They covered expenses, but not your budget shortfall. So the revenue that you weren't getting in because people weren't working, they're like, no, we're not covering that. So then it came along with the HEROES Act, which is in Congress right now. Well, it passed Congress, is in the Senate right now. The HEROES Act will take care of local issues, and I think part of the HEROES money will be able to be used for those budgetary shortfalls as a result of coverage. So not just expenses, but the shortfall that you have by not generating revenue. And that's a significant amount of money, and that can then offset what we need to do if we tell people to pull back and stay home. So hopefully that'll go through. And what I'm hearing is that that's got a lot of momentum right now, and maybe sometime within the next 6, 8, 10 weeks, HEROES Act will come through, and that money will free up local areas and the state to actually have people stay where they are to make sure we cover those shortfalls for not getting the tax revenue. Yeah.
But, so, there are two schools of thought there. Some people say, well, we're all in this together, but we're not all in it equally. Let's be clear about that. We're all in it together. But there are some people suffering more because of the type jobs they have, entry-level jobs, and some have to go to work, even at the entry-level jobs, because they're providing a service. So where do you come down on raising taxes, not on the average worker, but people of means?
Yep.
Raising taxes to help all of us move through this thing?
Yeah. So, right. That exactly. We're on the same page. 51% of all state revenue is generated by income tax. Over 50% generated by income tax. And those who make the most money, supposed to pay the most. That's not the case. It's the business at the base of the pyramid that pays the most. What we should do right now, and it's an interesting idea, but what we should do right now is, like I said, if you close corporate loopholes, you free up $500 million, which covers the cost of doing the state business. But you bring the corporate, cigarette tax. If you expand Medicaid, we have $60 million going to rural healthcare right now as a tax credit. If you took that $60 million and leveraged it and just brought in Medicaid money, you get 9-to-1 match. So for the $60 million that you're already putting out, if you just invest that in the federal government for that 9-to-1 match, we pull in another $500 million. But they're not doing that. And a part is that legacy issue in their minds to think that, okay, we're not going to expand healthcare because that was Obama's thing. It's in their mind now. But if you just did that, you're generating $1 billion. So then you can freeze taxes where people are. You don't have to raise any more income tax from folk. You keep it where it is because you have enough money to cover the demand that the state has to keep it running. And those are sensible things that can be done. And you know this, you were a mayor, a great mayor, by the way, the great mayor of this great city, and you know this. They could always do a revenue anticipatory note. We know it's not like we are a bad state, we're in a pandemic. Revenue is going to come back. Yeah. Float a note for a year. That's it. Float the note for the year to see what those expenses are. At the end of that year, if you close the corporate loopholes, you have the money from them to pay the revenue note. You don't have to do anything. And that's just smart finance. You would do it. Yeah. Not doing that. And that's something that we floated and floated and floated. But I think there's going to come a point where that conversation is going to happen this year because you're going to have to do a revenue anticipatory note to make it work. And if they do that, I think we'll be in good shape. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Speaking of local government, you have what's going on local. Two things I want to talk to you about. Give us an update on the I-75, I-16 interchange. I know you were very instrumental in getting some resources to help mitigate some of the destruction of the Pleasant Hill community. But there's also a move afoot to get another penny tax. I think is a hotel motel tax to be split. Where are you? Well, tell us a little bit where we are with the whole. I try to avoid I-16, I-75. I don't go. But where are we with that? We are still on schedule that completed 2021, 2022, I think.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
But all that funding is in place. Nothing will affect that funding.
Nothing will affect that funding.
And nothing will affect the funding that's going into the neighborhoods that you negotiate.
Right,
all that you negotiate.
Yep, that's happening.
Okay, now let's get to this penny tax. Yep. Where are you with that? Is it time to raise that tax, or is it now the bad time to do it?
I think now's a bad time. I mean, just because, even though people not traveling as much, so even you're doing a hotel motel tax, people not really coming in. And so even the SPLOST, we talk about that, you don't have a lot of outside activity because we're still in the pandemic. And so what we should do, smart policy would be, okay, let everybody just see where we are. Let's get through this. And then we can turn the lights back on in a year. But you don't want to, we can get you unemployment benefits. We can do all this stuff, but I don't want to come to nobody's funeral, Jack. It's not worth it, right? And so when you start thinking about how people are traveling and not traveling, all this, we've never been in nobody alive has been through a pandemic. We're now in one. And we need to respect the science of it all. It's a science problem, it's a math problem. If we respect the science and look at the numbers, we'll get through this. But if we disrespect the science and forget about the numbers, we're gonna make terrible mistakes and we're gonna cost some lives. So I would say we shouldn't be fooling around with taxes right now. That just shouldn't even be a part of the conversation. We should be thinking about how do we get revenue, right, through closing corporate tax structures, which you can do. This is not hard to do. You can close these loopholes. Do a revenue anticipation note. We know how much we're going to need in a year, right? Because we forecast this forever, and bring that money in through other ways. I think if we do that, we'll be fine.
Well, all politics are local, as they say, and we're in the middle of a local race. Thanks, God be the glory that you didn't have an opponent. Right. But that speaks volumes to you, that people say, this guy's too strong, he's doing a good job, leave him alone, let him continue to do his work. But locally, a lot of people thought you should have run for mayor, and I was one of them. But you didn't. But we do have a mayor's race going on. Now, it's a nonpartisan race. You're a Democrat, as you said, and the leadership of the Democrat caucus. Is there a role for you, people who in a nonpartisan race, because you got to work with whoever becomes the mayor? So are you endorsing, or are you sitting this one out?
Yeah, I like Clifford Whitby. I think he's a tremendous businessman. I thought he was a tremendous businessman. I think he did wonders in the Industrial Authority.
I appointed him to that.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah. Which I think was a great appointment, and I like what he stands for. I mean, I think he's a brilliant guy, and he's smart, and he's thoughtful. I don't know much about the other candidate. I mean, I know him, but I don't know much about him as a business person or whatever. So I only can say what I know, and so I'm excited to see him in this runoff. I'm sure we'll be having a conversation sometime soon about where he wants me to be, and certainly the other candidate. I'll certainly listen to him as well.
As you should.
Right. But at the end of the day, what I know about Cliff at this particular moment, I think he'd be a tremendous mayor.
Oh, that's a great endorsement.
Yeah, I think he'd be
you heard it on the Middle of Georgia Spotlight.
Yeah, I think he'd be tremendous.
Yeah. But I'm sure that's music to his ears. Yeah. I'm sure. But even though we're going to have both candidates on this show. I look forward to having both of them. Everybody's in the runoff. We're going to try. We have enough time. I think, Seth Clark is in the runoff with Carlton Kitchen. I think there's one other position that's in the runoff. So we're going to give each one of them at least 15 minutes. We're not going to give them 30 minutes. We're going to give each one of them 15 minutes to make their case to the people, because ultimately it's up to the people. Right. To decide. But as you look at your crystal ball, like you say, you're 10 years at the state, you've been in the city over 20 years now. I remember when you first came, opened your business at the old Kroger store, which is closed now, and we're trying to get some more stuff in there, so we won't have these food deserts. What is you created out of I think consolidation? You created an agency. What's the name of that
Yeah,
agency?
the Community Enhancement Authority.
Community Enhancement Authority. We see the work in Pleasant Hill. What is it? Can we expect to see something throughout the city that authority will get involved in enhancing this community into a better position?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the authority was created because the number one issue in Bibb County is poverty. People ain't working up to the level where they should be working. We have opportunities, but people can't access the opportunities for a lot of reasons. So the Community Enhancement Authority's only goal, it has one goal, one job, and that is to shrink Category 4 poverty areas. That's it. So whatever assets that are created, once we shrink poverty, and I expect to win, once we shrink that, then those assets turn back over to the county. So for instance, the houses that we're going to build in Pleasant Hill, we're going to create 17, 24, 24 homes are going to go over there. Well, right now we have 23 men in the technical college, 23 men from the area who are working. Who are getting their a degree or a certificate in plumbing, electrical, general contracting. They're doing that. They'll be done on July 12th. Once they get out, we're going to hire them and have them work. And so they come from all over of the place. But there's 12 other communities we're going to look at the same way. So whenever there's a macro driver, like the highway was a great thing because they had extra money. But whenever there's anything that's going on from the state level, federal level, where we can have men and women working as a part of that, going through your community, we should demand that, and we should accept nothing less. And so what the Community Enhancement Authority is going to do is look at those opportunities throughout Bibb County, and then hook our wagon up to a bigger wagon to bring people in so they can work as well. And I think there's going to be 3 or 4 opportunities that are coming online in the next 3 to 5 years that we'll be very much involved in.
Well, we know that you were very instrumental and out of this same project that we're talking about, the road program, that I-16, I-75, that you were able to restore Little Richard, the late Little Richard, yes. I'm sad to say, may he rest in peace, but you were able to get that house restored, turn it into a resource center. What has that meant to the community? What will it mean to the community going forward?
That's probably one of the greatest things. You worked on that for years. When he was Representative Lucas worked on it. Yeah. Look, it's not lost on me. I stand on the shoulders of giants. Now, let me be very clear about that. I know that I exist in this space because of you. And that's a fact. You know that. And I say that in real honesty. When you first became mayor, I was like, it's possible to do more in a political space than it is potentially in the private sector. And so thank you for that. And I stand on your shoulders, as you know. But it's done a lot for that community. And we have, we're giving out, we hooked up with the United Way. We're giving out meals every week to people. I think it's 100 families we feed a week. We got the grass, the people cut the grass and maintain the neighborhood or from the neighborhood. We got that from the city to make sure that we were using local workers in Pleasant Hill to do the work of Pleasant Hill. And so we're moving that along. And so what you have is you have a young man who now has a grass business. He had one, but now he has a stable income coming in for the next several years. And he's hiring kids out of Pleasant Hill to do the work. And so that's the kind of stuff. And they go to the resource center to figure out what they need to do. People getting their resumes done. So it's just the beginning, man. It's just the beginning.
Well, we hope to see that replicated throughout the community.
Absolutely.
Because the need is great. As you said, the poverty is great. We have low home ownership, affordable houses, lacking. But unfortunately, we are lacking for time. Because we are right out of time, fresh out of time. But I want to thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations on your appointment.
Thanks.
And having a good session. And we will continue to look to your leadership as we move forward, move through this pandemic, and get back to, hopefully not back to normal, but a new normal. Not a new normal.
Indeed.
We've been speaking with Representative James Beverly, Representative District 143 here in Macon, Georgia, and the surrounding areas. And we thank you all for joining us, and thank you so much.
Indeed.
Good luck to you.
Indeed. Thanks.
And we wish all you the best. And thank you for joining us here on this week of the Middle Georgia Spotlight. Until next week, I'm your host, Jack Ellis. Goodbye.